Hey everyone, thanks for clicking on my video. This is Rocky and this review will be for episode 7 of Constantine. And please stick around as after the review I'm going to go ahead and geek out a little bit about the Resurrection Crusade and just share a little bit of information with you guys as it looks like we will be seeing them coming up in the next episode. Some moments that I really enjoyed about the episode is the way it depicted the small town church atmosphere. We've all seen these in other movies, and some of us have experienced some of these small churches, but there's this overbearing desire for healing, for belief in miracles, just to believe, to have those miracles become real. And we get that sense in this episode. They present that very well. And the fact that this preacher, he wants this power to be good. He wants it to be from God because he needs it to be from God. And, we get that with a lot of the other minor characters in the episode, is this need for healing, this need for belief. And, that's a good representation of a lot of people these days, is they need to be able to believe. They need to have that within themselves. And then this is juxtaposed by Constantine, who knows what's going on. He doesn't necessarily believe, he actually knows. He knows angels and demons exist, and he's become very jaded with all these experiences, but yet he still has the willingness to fight. So he still has some of that hope in him as well. So I really enjoyed the way they kind of presented those ideals, and within Constantine as well. Within this episode, we also learned quite a bit more about Zed. Number one, she definitely falls for creepy model guys. So I mean, that's a plus in her book maybe for some people. But we do find out that she was raised to believe in God, angels, and those sort of ideals. But somewhere along the way, she lost her faith, as it were, as she uncovered so many lies, apparently. And, with her, we get, when she sees Imogen, when she sees an actual angel, we see this beautiful transition in her eyes where she's now looking, like a child in wonder, basically just, filled with hope now. And then, that kind of comes crushing down a little bit when she sees that even angels can be evil. And, we see that little bit of hope ignite in her, and then, it's kind of crushed a little bit, but it's still there. And the fact that, she gives John such a hard time about angels and being nice and things like that. They have a very playful relationship. It was nice in this episode they didn't quite play off the sexual tension as much between the characters, but you still get that back and forth between them that I'm starting to really enjoy on this series. In this episode, we actually get to see quite a bit more with Manny, as he's now having to take a more active role in things, particularly in this episode. But we see him popping in and out of different bodies, and at one point John actually tries to summon him through magic and things like that. And but with his conversations with Imogen, we learn that he doesn't think too much about the human race, and he kind of feels that if angels were given Earth, basically they would do a better job. But he still has this desire to feel the things as humans do. As he one of the things he asked Imogen about is, aside from feeling pain, is what it felt like the first time she felt the sun on her face and things like that. So, I mean, while he does help John in this episode in a big way, I'm still not 100% sure whose side Manny is on. Whether he's, truly, following a purpose given to him by God or one of the archangels, or if he's just kind of on his own right now trying to work out some plan. Again, like I've said previously, you can never 100% trust either angels or demons or pretty much anyone in the Constantine universe. Speaking of John, we actually get him being quite a bit physical in this episode. Between he uses that mini scythe that he stated came from a Grim Reaper, and then clubbing these demonic ghouls with a plank of wood. We haven't seen too much of that in this season so far. We've seen him fighting a little bit, but not to the extent we saw in here. This does have some backing in the comics, as he was, in most cases, considered pretty well at hand-to-hand combat. Now, this did differ depending on who was writing that particular issue. But he was, in the comics, has been shown to be a pretty good hand-to-hand combatant, and had some decent marksmanship skills as well. Though, for the most part, he did prefer to use his conning abilities and his wits to get him out of a situation, as opposed to physical violence or using magic. Now, one thing I do want to comment on is the protection spell that he casted. I thought was actually a pretty sneaky way of kind of representing the synchronicity effect of John Constantine. Now, this is basically a kind of a pass down from his family's lineage, as basically the Laughing Mages. They had the ability to tap into synchronicity lines where essentially they could make their own luck by basically being in a situation when they needed to be there, possibly even running into certain people that will help them later on down the lines, and even shifting like a battle in their favor. All these things were kind of tied into this synchronicity ability. And we see that with this, as while his intent is to protect Imogen from anything coming in from the outside, anything evil, it turns out it's the one thing that keeps her from escaping. So, I thought that was just a very slick way of presenting that ability. That may not have been their intent, but that's the way I'm taking it. But it was just, it's a recurring theme in the comics, is synchronicity and how it affects John in both positive and negative ways. And I'm hoping that we're going to see more of it in the show. Because it's a very interesting aspect of his character and could bring in some, we could learn some history of his family and things like that based on it. All in all, this did feel like a very solid episode. The most compact and tight so far that we've seen, as far as the writing and story and acting, as well as the visual effects. The visual effects of Imogen and her wings transitioning from white to black were just amazing. I thought they were very seamless, especially for a television show. I thought they were done very well, and as well as the contacts in her eyes, which were very similar to what Manny has as well. But yeah, like I said, pretty much the most solid episode we've seen so far, and definitely, gives me hope for the rest of the season. Now, it does look like we are going to be coming up to our mid-season break after next week's episode, as it does look like we're going to get a couple cliffhangers, and it does strongly imply that we're going to be seeing the Resurrection Crusade, and with what potentially may happen with John in that episode, that does kind of line up with some things that happens with him during that arc in the comics as well. So, like I said, I definitely thought this was a great episode. Very strong episode. One of the strongest episodes of the season so far, I thought. Really enjoyed the Zed and Constantine moments, as well as seeing Manny kind of step up a little bit. And like all in all, very solid story, I thought. I hope you guys thought it was as well. Definitely let me know down in the comments what you thought about the episode. And if you have any questions about any of the characters or anything like that, definitely put those down in the comments below as well. I'll be happy to go over that information with you. If you've enjoyed the video, I'd ask you to go ahead and give me a thumbs up and share the video over Facebook, Twitter, Google+, whatever social media works best for you. And anyone you think that might benefit or appreciate my videos, go ahead and let them know about it. I would definitely like having anyone else take a look and get their opinions and have some conversations with them. And in the meantime, go ahead and subscribe to my channels. I will be doing weekly reviews of Constantine as well as the other Marvel and DC television shows going on right now. And again, if you have already subscribed to my channel, thank you very much. I really appreciate it and hope you're enjoying the videos. Alright, so that kind of sums up the review right now. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to geeking out about the Resurrection Crusade from the comics, as well as some ideas on how it may kind of play out in the Constantine series. Now, just some basic information about the Resurrection Crusade is they were basically a very strong-arm militant group, basically religious fanatics, and they were very, very, very keen on violence to anyone that they thought were sinners or non-believers, things like that. They were very militant, and then they had an even stronger militant branch called the Tongues of Fire. Now, the Resurrection Crusade, as well as the Tongues of Fire, were led by Zed's father, Elder Martin. And they believed that Zed, or Mary, as she's also referred to in the comics as well, was the new lost lamb and chosen to birth the new Messiah in the form of Immaculate Conception. And actually, the overall plan was to basically, create essentially a new race of human-angel hybrids. So that was their kind of mission with how she was presented within the Constantine comics. She escaped from this group, was basically living on the street, and John ended up running into her, again, possibly tied to his synchronicity ability. And they over the course of the time, they did develop an emotional and romantic attachment to each other. And then they were split up for a time as she was captured by the Resurrection Crusade and was essentially brainwashed, and they did some surgical things to her as well to kind of prepare her for this ritual. While at the same time, John was off on another adventure and ended up getting severely injured. So he was actually in a hospital for a while, and he was basically confronted by the demon Nergal. Nergal basically told John what was going to happen to Zed, and that it was going to tip the scales between heaven and hell, which would be very bad. So initially he wanted John to kind of join him, but he wanted John to stop this. And John was basically completely injured at the time, so he couldn't do anything. So he made a deal that he would stop this from happening if Nergal helped him recover. Well, this resulted in John basically getting infused with Nergal's blood, which healed him rapidly and everything, of course. So John ended up going after Zed and approaching her, and they had sex one last time. Well, of course, during this, this demon blood is flowing through his veins, so this ended up tainting basically Zed through the act of sex with John. And when the time of the ritual was at hand, it seemed that the angel as well as heaven were offended by Zed and the demon taint and everything. So they essentially wiped out the entire Resurrection Crusade, supposedly Zed as well. In the end, it turned out that this was all part of Nergal's plan to further his own damnation army, as well as to kind of get a little bit of revenge against John for what had happened previously between the two, as Nergal is kind of being set up as the kind of big villain right now, initial big villain, as he's the demon that in the series, in the show so far, that has took Astra to hell. Now, what I mean by how it's going to play out in this show is in the preview for next episode, we show that, it looks like John's going to get, shot, severely injured, and that Zed's being taken away by pretty much the Resurrection Crusade, as we saw at the end of this episode, as well as in the preview. They're wearing their cross, very similar to the cross that Zed had shown previously a few episodes back. So how I think is going to happen is they're going to kidnap Zed. That's going to be her cliffhanger, and John's going to get severely injured. That's going to be his cliffhanger for the mid-season break. then when we come back, you know, we'll find out exactly what their intention is with Zed, whether it is they're going to, you know, go along with the comics where she's supposed to be the new Virgin Mary and everything like that, or if they're going to do something a little bit different. But I think we are going to see where Constantine's going to get visited by Nergal. Maybe not necessarily in a hospital, maybe where he's actually injured. He, you know, comes to him at that point. But I do think we are going to see some type of blood transfusion or something with Nergal and Constantine. It just seems like they're kind of setting that up in my mind. Now, I don't think they're going to go to definitely the extremes as far as potentially killing off Zed. As, you know, she's just starting to come into her own as a character on the show. And I know a lot of people are starting to gravitate towards her, even though initially a lot of people were put off by her. But I think seeing the relationship between Zed and Constantine grow is really starting to attract more people to the show. So that's kind of how I think that's going to play out. We'll find a little bit more in the next episode once we see exactly how they're presenting the Resurrection Crusade. I'm sure we'll get some information on their plan for Zed, as well as to see what's going to happen with John. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of little geek information about the Resurrection Crusade. It was definitely one of my favorite arcs in the Constantine comics. So that's why I'm kind of excited to see how they're going to play it out on the show. What angles they're going to use and what bits and what they may leave out. So I hope you enjoyed this Geek Out moment. Again, with these Geek Out moments, I kind of just like to feed my geek as well as feed your own internal geek as well. So let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed the Geek Out, as well as if there's additional Geek Outs you'd like, additional information, bonus videos about Constantine that you'd like to see. Go ahead and put those down in the comments below as well. As once we hit that mid-season break, that's going to give me a little bit more time to put some bonus videos together. So I've got some in mind, but yeah, definitely let me know in the comments what you guys would like to see as well. And like I said previously, if you've enjoyed my video, definitely give me a thumbs up and share the video. And please subscribe to my channel so we can keep up with each other and have some good geek conversations down in the comments. Alright, so all that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day now. Bye.